Okay, everybody, we're at the bead show. And this is all beads and tools and stuff like that. Anyhow, it's vast, and we're out at the Casino del Sol is where it's at. And Linda's taking a class right there in the aisle. Let's join her. You're cool looking. What's your name? Let's get that.
Jere Moskovitz.
Hi, Jerry. How you doing? Tell me how you been doing. How you doing here at the show? What is this called?
This is called a type of finger knitting.
Finger knitting. Okay, great. With wire.
With wire.
Okay, got it.
It won't work if it's not wire.
And I notice how well you accessorize. This is beautiful. And this is some of your work right here. You know, see, we have 10,000 people that watch this video every year, so.
We do a video every year.
Every year, yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the things we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I use a size 11 knitting needle with 22 gauge wire.
22 gauge wire.
Single ply.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I start by just holding my finger.
You like pear wire?
I only use power wire.
I too. I think it's the best.
And you just keep wrapping. Now, you might ask me why you can't use this and use the coiler.
Yeah.
The reason
tight?
is I need to count the number of loops, which you can on that. And I also need to have ends that are not wound up in order to do the finishing. So,
And did you say you're counting as you're doing that?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I mean, I normally would, but I'm not right now.
Okay, but you normally would, so you know if you didn't drop one, is that it?
Well, no. I mean, the thing is, I don't count until I flatten the loops because when you wrap like this, it's really hard to know when you finished and started another one. So for me, it's easier to count them when they're flat.
Now, this is an ordinary knitting needle, is that correct?
Yeah,
look at it. You have a whole variety of them.
It could be a pencil, too.
Yeah, and all different diameters,
It could be
obviously.
a dowel.
That's what I've used, yeah.
So for what I like in the 22 gauge is accomplished on the size 11 needle with the 22 gauge wire. So I pulled the coil off. Now I'm going to flatten the coil.
Okay.
With my fingers.
And so flatten it out.
The spacing, you try to get it as even as possible, but it's okay if it's not 100% perfect because it will get smoothed out when you put it through the drop plate.
When you pull it through
when
the...
you're done.
I hope you don't mind. I can get extremely close up here, and that's
okay.
to everyone's advantage to be able to show that detail. This is such fun.
We'll end with that, Gary. The video.
Okay.
Oh,
So to start the piece, I usually start with 3 loops to make like a flower. And I'm just wrapping the wire once between each of the 2, just very simple like
so that's
that.
the use of that tail.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's just going to stay there for now. And then I'm going to make this 7 loops around. So I'm going to add 1 in between each of the loops.
And you feed it through.
You feed it through. The important
loop.
thing is to hold it at the base so that it doesn't bend.
Are you skipping one on top?
What I did was I skipped one between them to add an extra one. So now I went from 3 to 6.
Okay.
And now I want 7, so I'm going to add 1 more by just laying that in between. And now I'm going to start going in every single one. So I have 7 on there, and I'm going to bend it around my finger to start the tube. And then I'm going to keep holding down there.
Always through the back?
Always from back to front. If you do it front to back, you're going to create a purl stitch.
A what?
A purl, like a knitting and purling.
Oh, yeah.
It's a different, it'll be a different effect. And you're just going to keep going around and around. I'll get to the end of this piece, and then I'll show you how to add more loops. As I said, you can sort of... If any of the loops get too small, they got squished, you can put a smaller needle in just to reopen it again. And so you can see that it's not so even around compared to what that looks like. Don't worry about that because that's going to get taken care of with the draw plate.
Now, the diameter of the chain could be also determined by the draw plate hole that you feed it through.
Correct. So the smallest I ever do is 5 because I find if you do 4, it ends up square once you pull it through the draw plate. 5 loops, yeah. So if you do 4, you'll end up with something more like a cube. It'll be angular.
Yeah, sure you would.
And
Lose
so
a curve.
I've done 5, 6, and 7. And I even have, I don't use the power wire draw plate, but I have a second draw plate that has some larger holes in it, so I'm able to do
Yeah, my dad made me one that's got some odd ones.
Yeah, so it really does depend on your draw plate.
Pretty good.
That is really
Isn't that interesting, Gary?
interesting, and I've got excellent video from her point of view.
Okay.
So that when you're looking at this, it's not upside down, you see? This is really cool.
And I'll show you what happens at the end when you need to add more loops.
You know what, though? It goes so much faster than Viking.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes.
Way faster.
Well, you're also not stopping. I mean, the thing about Viking knit is if your wire is this long,
That's exactly
you have
right.
all that length to pull.
And it's kinking.
Yeah.
And you have to be real careful to keep
Okay, now,
straightening it.
how do you add onto it?
She's going to show
I'm
us
going
that.
to show you.
And I've
So
got
now
that.
you have
I've
to
got a
always
piece.
have one loop here.
Got it. All right.
So I go back on my needle, and I just start winding again.
Isn't that great? You don't have all those crazy tails to deal with.
So what I like to do is, if you get down towards the end of the spool of wire,
Yeah.
I go by weight. So I weigh what a piece is that I am trying to duplicate, and then I know that I have to have enough of that weight on the spool in order to not run out in
I
the
see.
middle.
Sure. I'm sorry, my card too. I'm sorry.
So
you can add on as
You
much
can-
as you want, or
yeah, you
Yeah.
can keep adding. If,
how many feet is on a typical spool?
It
It depends on the color and
Yeah,
depends on the
and the
gauge
weight.
of the wire, but I can't tell you. I don't know the footage on a piece
It's
because
by-
I
it goes
go
by
by weight.
ounces.
Yeah,
Well, let's say
I-
it's let's say it's 10 feet.
No,
Maybe.
it's a lot
Would
more
it be
than
6
10
feet?
No, it's a
On a
lot
thing of
more
wire?
than that.
Yeah, and a reel of wire.
Hundreds.
No, would it? Well, yeah, I guess it would be.
It's
give
about 1.5 ounces of.
My card.
Oh, thank you. It's about 1.5 ounces, I believe, of wire.
Here, it's his feet here. Depends on a 26 gauge has 150 feet.
150 feet.
I buy the larger spool. I buy 500 foot
So do
feet
I.
spools. And
So if you have a 500-foot spool, how much chain is that? I mean, depending on
Well, what's it
diameter.
as I
cost?
said, it's
No.
about 1.5 ounces
How
per.
long?
1.5 ounces
I
per.
think it's roughly 1.5 ounces per necklace.
1.5 ounces per necklace.
Got it.
So what I do for my ends, I don't know if you're interested in
Yeah.
that. I just do a simple wrapped loop at the end. And I can show you how I reduce the stitches too. So you're probably better at this than me, but
Sure.
these clippers are not good.
All right, great.
And then I just tuck it on. What I do,
So you're gonna send hundreds now?
Okay, so this is to
so
close the other
yeah,
end.
I'm going to show you what I do at the end. So basically, you need to decrease the number of loops. So I leave 4 loops. The first one
Back
goes
to the 4 rows.
Yeah, so the first one goes through 2. Now I have 6 and I have 3. So each one is going to go through 2.
Oh, for heaven's sakes! Yeah.
And I like to. I mean, the whole idea is you need to cross them over. I like to use the needle to just help do that.
So you reduce the number of holes to create a taper.
Yeah, I usually end up with 3.
Yeah.
With this,
Like,
because I
Sweet.
started with 3, I'm ending with 3. And then I cut
And there
the
you have it.
wire.
Do you have any squares, Sterling?
And I like to line them up again with my smaller needle.
That's how you finish it.
This is how I finish. And what I normally do is about 2, just 2 times wrapping. Sometimes I'll use the pliers to pull it, but
and then
now
you
it's
just
ready
put
to
your-
go through the draw plate.
And that's after going through the drop plate?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can take it through the draw plate as many to make it as. Can you do
Here,
that
I'll
with this
show
too?
you.
Make it as small as you want.
You can.
But it
I tend to not want the loops to cross over each other.
Yeah.
So you see them right next to each other. So let's.
Okay.
Okay, that didn't do very much.
And then
Go to the
if somebody
next.
gets it kind of kinked up, and they're wearing it, just draw it through the plate again.
Actually, I've discovered how you repair. I've had people squish it, like
Yeah.
they packed it.
Yeah.
And what I have discovered is if I can get in there with a knitting needle
And stuff through.
make it spread out again.
Yeah.
And then I can put it through the drop plate to make it even again. The drop plate is like my best friend,
Yeah, that's
for a
kind of
lot
what I do with
things.
Viking knitting ones too, except you don't have to
See
make
how
it bigger, but you're
that's-
just making it smaller.
Probably as tight as I would go with that.
Well, that
So
is
do you
just-
pronounce your first name Jere? Is that
Jere.
Jere. So Jere Moskovitz, how are you?
Yes.
And there's your card right there,
Ah.
and more or less. And then, yeah. Wow, that was wonderful. How generous of you to take the time and show us how to do this. This
Can
is
you send me the video?
really lovely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I've got your card.
I'll have your
Okay.
card.
When he gets done with it, just tell us what you want.
And we just met Jere Moskovitz, who is one of the great wire wrappers, and she's doing a thing called finger knitting. You gotta see it to believe it. We'll do a little demonstration. Very generously allowed me to shoot video here at the show.